Michael Morales Torres para Lucha Libre Online, la marca número 1 de Pro Wrestling y Combat Sports en el mundo. Mi invitada especial directamente de Toronto, Ontario, Canadá, para el mundo representando a Impact Wrestling. Ella es no una, no dos, 7 7 veces campeona mundial de las Knockouts de Impact Wrestling y una vez, de hecho, campeona también tag team de las Knockouts de Impact Wrestling. Gail Kim, integrante del Salón de la Fama de Impact, llega acá a Lucha Libre Online. Gail, it is an absolute honor for us to have you as our guest. How are you doing today?
Thank you. I think I understood almost everything you said.
Wait, do you know Spanish?
I know very little, but it's pretty easier language, I guess, to kind of get if you know the basics. Yeah.
So where did Gail Kim learn the basics of Spanish? I'm curious
Well,
now.
I actually I grew up in Canada, so I had to learn French. So I did 8 years of French. But then I decided to, on my own, take a year of Spanish. And I did 1 year only because didn't realize that was an opportunity for me or that I could. And then I just dropped it. I don't know what happened, but I definitely have retained more Spanish than French, even though I've had way more years of French somehow. Yeah.
Gail, your career is beyond interesting, and your life itself.
Yeah.
You started in a time that you were considered to be ahead of the rest of the gals or the rest of the female roster. And you've been quoted by several talent in our interviews as their inspiration to be, to become a wrestler itself. So you started in the year 2000, as far as I recall. Who was the person or the company or the match that inspired Gail Kim?
It was WWE, and I actually watched it as a kid when everyone watched, when Bret Hart, British Bulldogs. I think everyone watched wrestling then, but I stopped watching throughout a good chunk of my youthful life. And then in college, I just started changing the channels. And at the time, that was when they were starting to use the women a little bit more. It was like Trish, Victoria, Molly, Holly, Ivory. And so Trish was the one that I knew because she was from my hometown, Toronto. So I knew her as a fitness girl, and I saw her evolve into this wrestler. And I greatly admired her for that. And she's the one who kind of brought my eyeballs back to WWE. But once I saw the the women wrestling in that division, I would say Molly Holly was the one that really, I was just like, wow, I just love the way you move in the ring. I just admired her so much. She moved with this grace that I had never seen from a female before. And so I became kind of obsessed, and someone I trained with worked with her in WWF at the time and was in Memphis Pro Wrestling with her. And so he introduced me to her, and she couldn't have been the nicest. I mean, if I looked up to anyone, I couldn't have asked for a better person, because she was so nice and took my stuff and gave me my opportunity to be in that company. So I'll always forever be grateful to her. And she's always been a good person and a good person to look up to. I think everyone feels that way that has met her. Yeah, she's a great person.
Great person for sure. Molly Holly inspired Gail Kim to become what she is today. And almost 23 years after your career started inside the ring, you're in a total different position. You are on an administrative position or administration position. You are part of talent relations inside Impact, one of the most brilliant minds behind the Knockouts division. Did you ever expected your career to be as successful as it is today when you first started?
No, because I got fired, right? So, I get into WWE thinking my dream came true, and I got fired after 2 years. So I literally quit wrestling. So, you never know what's truly going to happen. Listen, I tried to leave the business and try another thing, and I realized, man, I love wrestling. I got to follow my heart and prove I had something to prove at that point, and thank God for TNA at the time that ignited my passion back and gave me that opportunity. And I had to fight a little bit there, but you know what, and I will always be grateful for winning the WWE Women's Championship on my first night. I'm grateful, but at the same time, when you fight for something for so long and work so hard, and having that first Knockouts Championship, that really showed me that I think it's such a sweeter moment when you fight for it, you know, and it's a long road to get there, and the battle was there, and that you proved yourself. And so yeah, it was two different journeys, but I'm glad I wouldn't trade anything in the world for my road of my ups and downs and my roller coasters. And you know, people can shit on the fact that, I shouldn't swear, but can poop on the fact that,
No
you know,
worries, I
the
do it.
way that maybe my WWE runs went. But if they didn't go that way, would I have had the career that I had? Would I have felt like I had to prove myself? Would I have gone to TNA? Would I have, you know, all those things, would these things have happened? So I wouldn't trade one moment for anything, to be honest. Yeah.
What do you recall of that first night, today's Impact Wrestling? Back then it was TNA, and
Yeah.
both ambiances were so different. Like, we were seeing something on Impact back then that it was not seen anywhere, but you had the
Yeah.
opportunity to be a part of it, to be that centerpiece they were looking for at that Knockouts division. So what do you recall of that first night in the job?
Oh, the first night at TNA?
Yes, with Impact.
Oh, well, I was just, I mean, TNA, the first day was our first day on Spike TV. So I was just managing then. And so I had to go through a year and a bit of managing. So at the beginning, just walking into the company, I was just super excited to see all the people that I worked on the indies with, like the Petey Williams, the Bobby Roods, the Eric Showtime Young, you know, all these people I worked on the indies. It was basically like coming full circle again to the people, you know, when you're a student of the game, you're so passionate and you just want it all. And like those feelings came back flooding to me after the fact. And so I was super excited because it was the beginning of the Spike TV era for us. And so that was a huge era for us. It was just exciting to be a part of it, you know, to be part of something that was growing and that we were kind of the underdog. We've always kind of been the underdog. So it's exciting to always have a challenge and to always have that goal to strive for and to prove yourself and to prove to the fans that, yeah, we're a great company. I'm a great wrestler. They're great wrestlers. And it's just always a constant challenge, which I like.
Gail, what makes you happy enough about pro wrestling to keep doing this after 20 plus years? Like, people change
Yeah.
careers all the time. People
Yeah.
are, you know, they become attorneys and then they change to a different pathway.
Yeah.
But you decided to stay in that lane that is called pro wrestling. So what motivated you enough to stay here?
It's a funny business, you know. I think, you know, we all say, it's almost like it's a saying, I guess. You may have heard it, but it's almost like the mafia. Once you get
Yeah,
in, you
you
can't get
can't go
out.
back.
You can't get out, you know, you're stuck no matter. So I'm actually very fortunate that I've been able to retire and still go on in the business, especially as a woman. You know, I think that there's absolutely more opportunities growing for women in this business. And I love it. I think it's very important for us to have more women, you know, in management positions and things like that. It was a natural progression. I just loved it. You know, it's a very rare thing to go in your life and to find the love of your life in terms of your career. So why would you give that up when it doesn't feel like a job? Yes, you go through your normal frustrations of any job you would have. Listen, it's real life, but at the same time, I don't want to do anything else. Why would I? And I feel like I put in so much time into it to become good at what I do. And listen, when I retired and I became a producer and moved into other positions, I'm relearning again. I may know the wrestling business, but that doesn't mean I know that position that well. And I want to become good at my position as well. You know, it took me I always tell people, wrestlers to this day, they might have thought, they think of me as a good wrestler from that. You know how long it took me to become good? It took me a long time to become good. It took me a long time to be confident. It took me a long time to be able to become a leader in this business. And it's going to be the same when I move up and do other positions in this company. You're just starting all over again, right? And trying to prove yourself all over again.
Gail, you're currently producing what I've stated for the last 3 years, that it's the best women's division in the world, period. The Knockouts have been day in and day out proving the world that women's wrestling can be main event in the card, they can be a main event in the pay-per-view, they can be the centerpiece of every single pro wrestling program. So how do you feel facing this new demon, let's say this way, because you dominated the ring, the in-ring competition, and now you're dominating the backstage, you know, of wrestling as well. So how was this transition, and how do you feel having in your hands the future of pro wrestling?
Well, I want to clarify one thing. I think a lot of people just see it all on me. You got to understand, this is a team effort. It's not just me. I can't do it all by myself by any means. I might have the heart to support them wholeheartedly, but there's a creative team, there's the management that makes the decisions to make the knockouts a very important part of the show. Those decisions aren't mine. You know, I do my job, and I love the girls, and they're my whole heart, and that division is my baby. And so there's a lot of people involved, you know. Lance Storm currently produces the women as well, so it's a joint team effort with Lance Storm and myself, and the creative team of Jimmy Jacobs and Robert Evans that write the show, and other people like a Tommy Dreamer and Scott Demore who are in the office. It really is a collaborative effort, and the girls, you know, being such a great group of girls, creating the environment where the girls feel like they're all working, they all support each other. It's none of, you know, of course it can be a very competitive work environment for a lot of the industry, because, you know, you're competing for spots, but they support one another. They want each other to have the best matches. It's great to see. And that comes from the whole management team creating that environment for everybody.
Gail, highly probable this is a question that you're going to be asked several times during this media tour, but it's about Mickie James, the new reigning, defending knockouts champion of Impact Wrestling, stated back then in an interview that Gail Kim is not coming out of retirement to wrestle anyone. I've already asked her, but things are different. Mickie has the title. She's under her last rodeo as well.
Yeah, she does have the title.
She does have the title, and she is in the last rodeo. Is this something that may interest you? Because obviously when you hang your boots, you do it. It's a really difficult and personal decision. You go through a lot of processes. Is going back to the ring with Mickie James something that can be considered in the future, or not for now?
I know Mickie mentioned it, you know, and it's funny, a couple of people, it must have been an interview that everyone saw, because I've been asked this question. But I this is what I say. I love and respect Mickie James to the highest regard. So if she wanted me to come out of retirement to wrestle her for a lot, I would do it, just because I respect her that much. I would just need the time to prepare physically. And people are asking, so does that mean, listen, you never say never in wrestling. And I don't think I would do what Mickie did. I was saying to everybody, because she kind of started at the bottom and worked her way up. I'm like, that's a lot of matches to have. But you never say never to a dream scenario, so you never know. It could be anything. Well, someone's just got to put together the right scenario for it to be something. Because listen, we're all wrestlers, we all love it. It's always inside of us somewhere, and we put it to bed, but sometimes a little bit of you know, something comes out.
We gotta have the magic and the perfect scenario. I get it.
Yeah.
So if you allow me, I'm gonna say something really quick in Spanish para todos nuestros boricuas, para los mexicanos, los salvadoreños, los latinos que estamos en el área de Florida. El 20 y el 21 es su día. 20 y 21 de enero, Osceola Heritage Park, Orlando, Florida. Boletos a la venta ahora mismo en Ticketmaster. Impact Wrestling regresa con New Year's Revolution 20 y 21 de enero. Osceola Heritage Park, Orlando, Florida. Mickie James, Jordan Grace, Josh Alexander. Hay una enorme gama de superestrellas que Impact tiene en su roster, que le está dando lo mejor día y noche. Laredo Kid está desde su casa respaldándolos, pero mientras tanto Black Taurus, mexicano, también va a estar allí presente esa noche. Hay una gama de superestrellas. Usted no se lo puede perder por nada del mundo. Ticketmaster.com para boletos, o simplemente hacen clic aquí a la parte de abajo de la entrevista, clic, y los va a llevar directamente a Ticketmaster. Así que 20 y 21 de enero, Osceola Heritage Park, New Year's Revolution de Impact Wrestling, Ticketmaster.com para boletos. No se lo pueden perder por nada del mundo. Which leads me to my next question. New Year's Revolution, the 20th and the 21st of January. Impact Wrestling
This
returns
weekend. Yep.
this weekend.
Yeah.
Impact returns to Orlando, Florida, with the best women's division in the world. What can we expect from Gail Kim, from the Knockouts, and from the whole Impact Wrestling family in what's been so far, you know, it's been a great couple of years. I know 2023 is going to be way bigger. What can we expect from you guys?
Oh my gosh. You never know what to expect from us, to be honest. I swear we've been so great with all our surprises. I mean, listen, Santino Marella is now our director of authority. You never know. I know. I popped too. You just never know who's going to show up. And I'm going to be so entertained by this. Just that alone, just him being the director of authority. There's going to be shenanigans. There's going to be entertainment. There's going to be some great entertaining spots. I'm so excited. And Frankie Kazarian came back home at Hard to Kill as well. Yes. I mean, oh gosh. And Lisa Marie showed up. You just never know what you're going to see with us. And even if you're not a wrestling fan, which I'm sure mostly are wrestling fans listening to this, even if you're, I always tell everybody, even if you're not a wrestling fan, wrestling's fun to watch live regardless. It's never boring. I promise you won't be bored. And we are an extremely interactive show, so you'll get to be part of pre-show meet and greets, post-show meet and greets. There's some VIP packages you can be a part of, but mostly entertainment and a hell of a night of wrestling or two, Friday and Saturday. So impactwrestling.com or Ticketmaster, you can get your tickets for this weekend.
That's so awesome. I'm going to say something again in Spanish. Todos los jueves, every single Thursday, 8 de la noche, hora del este, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Access TV es el lugar y también el canal de YouTube de Impact Wrestling con la membresía de Impact Insiders. Es el lugar donde pueden disfrutar la programación semanal de Impact Wrestling. Así que todos los jueves, 8 de la noche, hora del este, Access TV y también la tienen disponible en YouTube Insiders de Impact Wrestling. Esa es la programación semanal. No se la pueden perder por nada del mundo. Shopimpact.com para mercancía como t-shirts y memorabilia. También la pueden conseguir en ebay.com/Impact Wrestling para memorabilia firmada. Para lo importante, shopimpact.com para las t-shirts. Gail, before we go to our last question, to the time purposes, I wanted to say it's been an absolute honor to have you here as our guest back on Lucha Libre Online. Thank you so much for your time. Last but not least, 2016 was the year you were finally inducted into the TNA Hall of Fame. It's the biggest night of every wrestler's career, basically. Yeah. What do you recall of that historical night in your life?
It was like you said, it was like the icing on the cake. Everything, you know, people used to ask me during my career, what do you want fans to remember you as, or what do you want them to take away from your career? And I always had the same answer, and that was that I want fans to remember me because I was never a huge character per se. You know, I was just kind of fought for women's wrestling. I knew I just loved wrestling. I loved being in the ring. I knew my strength in wrestling in this whole business was the sport of wrestling. I wanted fans to remember me as one of the best, and I wanted my peers to remember me as one of the best. And just to have that accolade and that moment was, I think, every wrestler's dream come true. I mean, I couldn't have asked for more. And that's pretty much after that is when I asked myself, okay, you know, my back, I couldn't walk after matches. So it's like, okay, Gail, what's your next goal? And I couldn't answer it at that point. So that's when I decided to retire. So yeah, that was the icing on the cake for me.
Obviously the cherry on top of
the cherry on top. Yeah, sure.
Gail, it's been an absolute honor to our fans. Let me remind you, 20 y 21 de enero, 20 and 21st of January, this weekend, viernes y sábado, impactwrestling.com para boletos. New Year's Revolution, Osceola Heritage Park, Orlando, Florida. Ahí los esperamos. Let's wrap this up en español. Gail Kim y Michael Morales Torres para Lucha Libre Online, la marca número 1 de Pro Wrestling y Combat Sports en el mundo. Será hasta la próxima.